Welcome to something to talk about.
Hi, welcome to Something to Talk About. My name is Taco, and we're finally finishing off the Song of Ice and Fire 2025, A Song of Ice and Fire, huge tourney with 124 characters. And we're going to go over all of them really quickly and then get into the playoffs and then the grand finals. So, spoilers, that's your grand finals. And then, yeah, I won't tell you who wins yet, but if you're paying attention, you know. This was the playoffs, so I'm just going to move in right away. If you don't know what this is, ever since March 1st, I've been going over this 124 character tourney in polls, and we're done. So this is our second big one like this. Next year I'll be doing one again, but probably do it in a different way, probably smaller character wise. But I think I'm going to play with the format a little bit next year. But anyway, let's start off with going through what these brackets were. So in the Rebels bracket is what we started out as. And yeah, Daemon of Blackfire ended up moving through Melee's Blackfire, Quentin Ball, and then Lionel Baratheon. And then on the other side, Robert Baratheon moved through Hugh Hammer, Aegor Rivers, and then Dagon Greyjoy. And then eventually Robert Baratheon beat Daemon Blackfire there. So yeah, that's how Robert moved on. And then in the Legends bracket, Gerald Hightower somehow beat Ryan Redwine. Still a little confused about that one. And then beat Orys Baratheon. But down here, Aemon the Dragonknight moved through Eric Cargill, Rhaegar Targaryen, and then ended Gerald's reign, underdog reign. And then went up against Clegane, who I believe fought the Red Kraken, Dalton Greyjoy, and then Aegon the First Targaryen, Aegon the Conqueror, and then Visenya up to the Dragonknight. So yeah, that's good job, Clegane. Clegane ended our run too, but lost to Aemon the Dragonknight. So and then Modern Legends. Yeah, we put Barristan against Jaime right away. I will not be doing matches like that in round one. Again, that angered a lot of people, and retrospective, yeah, they're probably right. So yeah, I won't be doing that next year. Have a really crazy match like that. So Barristan did have a really, not unsurprisingly, really good run. Jaime Lannister over Martell Corn half hand, and then on the other side, Garland Tyrell went up against Gerald, Darkstar Dane, Randall Tarley, Victorian Greyjoy, which I can't believe, and then Barristan beat Garland. I really thought it was going to be Victorian versus Barristan, but no. And then in the Monsters bracket, which was always going to be the Mountain versus Maekar, because there wasn't really a lot of really strong fighters in here besides that. The Gregor beat the Smiling Knight and then the Leaper, and then Clayton Suggs. See what I mean? And then Maekar the Cruel beat Rorge, Coggle Corpse Killer, and Godfrey the Farin the Giant Slayer. And then it ended with Maekar beating Gregor the Mountain Clegane. And in Big Guys and Gal, Duncan the Tall beat Small John Umber, and then Brianna Tarth, and then Lyle Craycall to go up against Sandok the Shadow, who beat Strong Belwas, Archibald Ironwood, and then the Great John. And I'm really sad Sandok didn't make it. I'm okay with it being the Dunk the Lunk who beat him. I just have hopes that next year we can at least get him to the finals. Yeah, that's it. All right. Knights of Summer and Tourney, Loras Tyrell went through Glennon Flowers, Balon Swan, and Vardis Egan, who I think is really underrated. And Robar Royce went through Eamon Coy, Bryce Karen, and Eamon Coy, Aaron Santagar, and then Humphrey Harding. But had a book rematch against Loras and won. So that's how Loras made it in. And Soiled Knights, Crispy Colson won against Lynn Corbray. Good job. And Braun of the Blackwater and Lucamore the Lusty Strong. Sandor the Hound had another really good run against Darian Naharis, Luthor, Apple Eater Brune, and then Daemon the Rogue Prince Targaryen. Nice. Now for the random bracket, which isn't just strong, but it was still pretty good. Also, I can't believe the Hound won, because I think, without looking, I think the Hound is he is still a Kingsguard member. I was going to say the only non-Kingsguard Baratheon or Targaryen, but he was a Kingsguard member. members, so never mind. Beric Dondarrion lost to Khal Drogo, much to a lot of people's chagrin, and I don't know why I'm reading Khal Drogo's matches, and then beat Thoros of Myr. Anyways, Maekar beats Kraz, and then Jon Snow, and then Khal Drogo. And Baelor Breakspear went through Braxton Beesbury, Lynn Corbray, Tormund Giantsbane, and then lost to Maekar. So another book rematch. So yeah, let's get into the matches here. So Robert Baratheon versus Aemon the Dragonknight. All right, I had to pause it. I don't know where we're at. My daughter came down and wanted to grab her Mewtwo action figure. Get into the playoffs. Robert Baratheon versus Aemon the Dragonknight. Let's get going. This was a crazy one. So Robert ended up winning 51-49. But when I checked like a day and a half before I needed to post it for the semifinals, I thought Robert won. He was at like 52 or 53. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, Robert won. And then right before I had to put him against the semifinals, it was like 50-50. So I had to repost it. And I got like 100 and something more freaking votes out of that. We ended up getting 640 votes, which is nuts. So Bitter Flame with AY said Aemon will not stop those hammer strikes. Robert is a strong dude. Yeah, it essentially like it's like blocking against a car, right? Like somebody swinging a sword, you can block it with your shield. You're probably just getting some impact. I don't know. I'm not a sword fighter, but you block like the swinging hammers, like blocking, like you can block it all you want, but you're still getting nailed, right? Like still jostling your entire body. And then let's get a name here. Zach Jones said Robert gets a rage with Zenkai when he fights Targaryens. It is known. Zenkai boost. Soul Brother had a really fun take. And hear him out. He said, I think Ned Stark could possibly beat prime Robert Baratheon. Hear him out. He said Ned fostered and learned arms with Robert for years as young kids and men. Ned would have had to take a couple poundings, in sparring sessions, and he was able to hold his own and make Robert respect him. Yeah, that's actually like a really bold take, a hot take, if you will. I thought it was pretty cool because it's like, oh, maybe Ned could beat Robert. It's like, wait, what are you talking about? It's like, well, they had to fight together all the time. And if Robert just beat the crap out of Ned every morning, Robert probably wouldn't think of him as a good friend, you know? Maybe. That's a cool take. Ned's not in here for many reasons. We haven't actually really seen any fights with Ned in the books. In the show, they made him a pretty good fighter. But, his fight with Jaime, just kind of like right at the beginning, a horse falls on his leg. It's not much of a fight. And we haven't seen the Tower of Joy. So that's why I never put Ned in a tourney, and I don't plan on it. Cowboy Mike Show said Bobby B can defeat him with sheer charisma alone. Use it as a blade. That's funny. There's a lot of really good here. Leon Russell, name's Russell, just said Warhammer wins. E. Marty said Dragonknight. A lot of people just saying Dragonknight. All right, so we're going to go with Max B said if Rhaegar Targaryen, who isn't known as a swordsman with a normal sword, is able to get the first hit in and wound Robert pretty badly, Dragonknight is one of the greatest swordsmen of all time, and he wields a Valyrian steel blade, and it would do much worse. This result just baffles me, especially since the majority of the comments are for the Dragonknight. Well, keep in mind, this is 600 people, and it's probably 6-ish people, 6 or a little more people that flip that. So you're like, yeah, but almost everyone in the comments. Yeah, but you see how close this is. We're like literally under 10 people made that entire vote, right? So just keep that in mind, Max. It's very paper thin margin. The majority, a very large minority of people, only 6 less wanted him in the Dragonknight, right? Elizabeth, let me get her name here. Elizabeth Beck said, Aemon the Dragonknight. This post said Robert, who got injured fighting Rhaegar and spent most of his drinking and doing nothing else. Yeah. I mean, that's a fair point. Carlos said, keep destroying targs, my king. Yeah. And then, yeah, we'll move on. Just a lot of people saying Dragonknight, a couple just Warhammers. We have a lot of fighting to get through. So, yeah. Robert moved on only 51-49. That's crazy. All right, Barristan the Bull beating Maekar the Cruel. This is nuts. I thought Barristan would win, but this margin also is very surprising. 83% to 18%. So, yeah, I was rather surprised. Diaperfang said Maekar shouldn't have even made it past the mountain. So, good riddance to the False King. It's a hot take. Ellen Kahn said in his prime, Barristan might best any currently living knight. Well, we learned from this fight, most people did, or this turning, most people agree. Max got a lot of people commenting on him. I will not be reading. Max has two things here. I'm only going to read the one that has all the comments, but I'm not going to read the comments. Max B said, I figured Barristan was going to win. But you can make a good argument for Maekar. I agree. He's got the advantage of being a lot bigger, stronger, and wielding a Valyrian steel blade. But more importantly, he's actually relatively skilled to Barristan. And that's what a lot of people disagree with. I see a lot of people bringing up melees, but that's not a very accurate comparison. Maekar wasn't just some brute, but literally considered one of the most skilled knights of his age, just like Barristan. In fact, Maekar even seemed to be a bigger prodigy of the two, considering both earned their knighthoods at 16, but Barristan did when he unhorsed Prince Duncan and both the Dunks in tilts, while Maekar won the melee and rode extremely well in the tilts at a great tourney. I agree with everything Max just said, and I'm not even saying but. I agree with everything Max said. A lot of people didn't. HCLW, I said I wasn't going to read these, but he said these two are not relative in skill in the slightest. Barristan is a character that quite literally proves that there are levels to this fighting stuff. He said all due respect, or no, he doesn't. He just says respectfully, these two. And then I don't know, it's got a little, Maekar's age sucked. Yes, he was a good tourney fighter, but an tourney fighter doesn't hold a candle of what Barristan was able to do at his peak. By himself, he cut through a path of the greatest armies, killing even a stronger fighter just in strength than his melees. Yeah, I'm not going to keep reading these. I agree with Max. I think that they are comparable in skill, but that's my opinion. You, HCLW, you can have your opinion too. But yeah, I definitely believe that. Yeah, and then on the. We're going to move on after this. On the melees thing, Renee Barda said that Selmy has faced Melees a monstrous who is far less skilled opponent, speculating, but was horrifyingly strong, even more so than Gregor, and wielded Blackfire as well. Just wait. It won't be an easy fight by any means, but Selmy, especially in his prime. I commented, I do not believe that melees use Blackfire. I think we would hear about that. We don't hear about that at all. It's in no source material. So I do not believe that melees was wielding Blackfire. Okay. That was Duncan that was Barry versus Maekar. So let's do Duncan the Tall versus Loras. I got some flack because I gave Loras some flack about him even making it in the playoffs. It's like, wow, Loras, what's he doing here? And some people were like, hey, stop talking about Loras. Well, he got completely stopped. 90% to 10%. There is no Tucker. I'm not doing a Tucker for 10%. He was the closest to a Tucker. If he was a Tucker, I'd be gloating way harder. This person spoke in Spanish, so let's see if there's a translation. Can I translate this? Yeah. And then let me get it. Ricardo Nuno Vieira said, Duncan the Tall is one of the best riders for me. He is excellent at fighting and is on par with Barristan Selmy, Arthur Dane, and Aemon the Dragonknight. I mean, you're not completely wrong. Like, a lot of people believe that Dunk is in that S tier with all those guys. And I'm not. Who am I to disagree? Who am I to disagree? Univa's Finest said Dunk versus Barry, a fight for the ages. Yeah, well, it's coming up. And then Rebel Lord Terran said Dunk obviously want to fight about it. Oh, Rebel. And then Squisher King said Loras Tyrell severely overrated in my opinion. No match against Dunk the Hunk. Dunk is way hot. That's what we're doing here, but okay. And then Soul Brother said Dunk got his you misspelled ass sock kicked a lot. Is that just so you didn't get blocked? That's funny. Seems like he was always waking up in the Maester's chamber. You're not wrong, but that's early Dunk, right? The Mac said, but he always got the job done. Wake up in the Maester's chamber all you want, but boom, you beat it though. Still beat it. Still got that goal. All right. Yeah. All right. Moving on. I don't need to spend too much time on these. So then we have our final final of this first round, and then we're getting into semifinals, and that is Hound versus Maekar. And yeah, Hound beat him rather handedly, 61% to 39. Good job, Hound. Baylor Blakespear said at best we have Maekar who is being a good shield wall and fighting. There we go. Sorry. Best we have of Maekar is being a good shield wall and fighting on the wrong side of a trial of 7. Though he was fighting 2 dogs at once, I think by this point of the tourney he would be gassed, possibly. Hound is dining on anvils with his chicken tonight. Oh, brother, hurt your teeth eating an anvil. Birdman said, once again, I don't think his fighting skill would win the day, but he's just really hard to kill. And Targaryens are usually one-hit KO. Yeah, all right. Yeah, you're not using me. I'm assuming you're talking about the Hound. Some people think I can see their votes. It's like, I voted this one because of this. I'm like, well, which way did you vote? I can't see your votes. So yeah, Targaryens are often one-hit KOs. I didn't notice that until I read Birdman's comment. Because no, you're right. A lot of Targs just get like a single hit to the head or a single arrow. They're kind of out. All right. David Milburn said, man, that's a tough battle. There you go. All right, yeah. Let's get into the semifinals here. So Robert Baratheon's moving on to Barristan Selmy. Holy Shamola. Yeah, Robert lost 27% to Barristan 73. So yeah. Starting off with a max, Barristan wins extremely comfortably. We know for certain that Barristan can deal with overwhelming strength, and a Warhammer would be no problem for a knight so skilled and experienced as Selmy. Not that a Warhammer would really give an advantage to a lot of people. That a lot of people are commenting. Warhammers and other bludgeon weapons in real world are superior to swords when fighting knights, but not in a side-by-side fight. A majority of the greatest knights like Jaime, Barristan, and the Cleganes all chose to be swordsmen. If Warhammers were superior, these elite knights would obviously be using them instead. Well, I think it takes a lot of strength to use a Warhammer, and a lot of the bigger guys just like the Mountain is also using a weapon that no one else can wield, but with a lot of strength. I think I understand your take. Okay, Ebonic Knight. Oh, Ezra Graves said Mike versus LeBron. Lazy Boy just said the Bulls. Yeah. Then, sorry, I'm looking for good comments. The last Hokage. I'm assuming that's a reference. I don't understand. I'm giving this one to Robert. Dude was unstoppable during the rebellion. Unstoppable. He can't be defeated. Oh, Efren T gave us a breakdown, even though I already did one, but he's got percentages. Robert Baratheon beat Hugh the Hammer with 95%, Bittersteel with 82%, Dagon Greyjoy with 92%, and then Daemon Blackfire with 60%, and the Dragonknight with 51%. Barristan Selmy beat Jaime with 69%. Boom. Oberyn with 84%. Cord Halfhand with a Tucker, 96%, and then Garland Tyrell with another Tucker, 93%, and then Maekar the Cruel with an 83%. Yeah, no, like Barristan, there's a Donald boy. He's just collecting them Tuckers. Holy crap. All right, let's move on to our other semifinal match, and that is Dunk versus the Hound. Dunk beat the Hound 70% to 30%. Crazy. Right, that's where I am. Yeah, just did Robert versus Barristan. Yeah, I'm looking for it though. Dunk versus the Hound. There you go. I got lost. Yeah. So Dunk beat him 70 to 30. Let me get this out of my face. Let's get you a name. Oh, that didn't help me. DNGN DNGN 4774 said this is a close one for me because this is a close one for me because I kind of see Sandor as his generation's Duncan the Tall. Not bad. Yeah, and then E. Marty just said, I need to know if this is canon to the books. I need to know if this is canon to the books. It is. As we have them as we have them or an ideal prime fighting age experience of the fighter. Sandor wiped the floor with Dunk as from the stories we have, but maybe not as much as the stories we get him as Kingsguard. I'll vote Sandor until I know what level Dunk is. It's very up to you, because especially with Dunk. Dunk is like the main guy I'm talking about here. Do you go off of when you have the most information on him, where he's not very good, or when we just don't have any information, but we know he beats a lot of Baratheon, but we don't know how good. We know he beats a Blackfire pretender, no offense, but we don't know how good. We don't know how that match went, right? And then there's like Barristan, where it's like, oh, well, prime Barristan. So like when you beat Melees, but all we know is he beat, like, do you go off where you haven't done much? And that's why I don't ever tell anybody. I just say here. Like there are a couple that we immediately assume Robert's probably tried it, Robert. That one's, definitely not now, right? But I kind of leave it up to you. I want you guys to interpret it how you want, because it's really hard to say prime, because sometimes prime is just 100% conjecture, right? Where we don't have any evidence of how they fought at all in their prime. So yeah, so that's why I never really stated. Yeah, moving on from that, Melicor Darkfell, great name. Said that Duncan would still have a bit of that flea bottom dirt to give him an unexpected twist. The Hound may look rough, but he is a trained fighter, not a slum brawler. No, absolutely not. Yeah, the Hound is definitely a trained fighter. And then Kevin Nutzling said Duncan is one of the few opponents who would be familiar with Sandor's level of brutality. And is strong enough to hold his own, especially by his prime. I think that he has skills to win this. Sorry, I was looking at replies to that. All right, let's move on. And yeah, let's get on to our next fight. So that was Duncan versus Sandor. So now we're on to the finals. There, like, holy crap. So yeah, Dunk moves on against the Hound. 70 to 30, and yeah, Barristan versus Dunk the Lunk, and Barristan is our winner. Woo! Cheer! 74% versus 26%. So yeah, that was our finals. Baylor Blakespear said maybe next year will be the Justice for Sandor tourney. Yep, I hope. So congratulations to Barristan Selmy, but yeah, I want next year to be the Justice for Sandor tourney. He goes on to say, well fought, Fun participating as usual. All hail Lord Commander, Sir Barristan the Bold. Tyler Chaplin said this whole contest comes down to Selmy versus Dane, which Dane barely wins. We'll see. I said, oh, should I do a bonus and see if he beats Dane? And I did. I did that today. Irish Potato Thief said one accidentally started a coup and the other one accidentally trips and starts a fire. Kevin Nutzling said 2 legendary Lord Commanders. Unfortunately, as much as I love Dunk, even in his prime, he never fought a warrior and scaled a warrior of pure skill like Barristan. Efren T said Battle of Lord Commanders. Oh no, how long is this? All right. Oh, cool. This is another how we got here. So career highlights. Barristan the Bold winner at... Oh, no. This is career highlights. Cool. Barristan the Bold winner at the tourney. King's Landing at 16. Unhorsed Duncan the Tall and Duncan the Small. Knighted at 16. War of the Ninepenny Kings. Slower Melee Baratheon. Duska Daily saved Ares. Second slew Gaunt. Kingswood Brotherhood slew Simon Toyne. At the Trident, he survived arrow, spear, and sword. And then at Greyjoy Rebellion, he led an attack on Old Wick. And he is now currently, right as we're talking, he's been in it for a few years, still in the Battle of Marine. Duncan the Tall did the Trial of 7 with mostly fighting Arya Targaryen. Trial by combat slewing Lucas Inchfield. And then the 4th Blackfire Rebellion, where he slew Daemon the 3rd Blackfire, and then a Trial of Combat versus Lionel Baratheon. Thank you for the highlights. That was good. And yeah, all right, there you guys go. I did do a couple bonus matches to see who our 3rd place is. So I took our 2 losers of the semifinals and did a losers finals, and Robert Baratheon is our 3rd place guy. So we even got some comments on that one. So the Demon of the Trident, and then is this during Robert's Rebellion? Yes, I would assume. Max B said both are massive, but Sandor is a bit bigger, and I can't really see Rhaegar putting up a decent fight against Sandor if they fought like they did against Robert. So leaning towards Sandor. Losers final. This would be a better. Hey, it might be a main event next year. All right. Now we got Barristan. Okay. And then thanks. And Carlos said thanks, Taco. Bobby in 3rd place for the tournament. I think he's the one who asked me to do this. Yeah. And then George said at drinking. That's a tough one. That's hilarious. Okay, and then another bonus. I didn't take a picture of it because I only posted it 2 hours ago. But I did do a who would win against the champion last year versus champion this year. And that is Barristan the Bold versus Arthur Dane. And right now, Barristan is beating him barely, 51% to 49. In the vote, we're only at 59 votes. So, yeah, still really early on. So, this could go either way. I'd be really surprised if Arthur loses. But they're playing for number 1 seed next year. So, I think next year, whoever wins here is going to be... So, the winner of the entire tournament, I'm going to put against the loser here and then the winner here to see who the real winner is. Right? So, yeah. Yeah, I can't believe we're finally wrapping up this tournament. Zach McBride been crazy and fun, just like last year. Next year, a Royce will win. Mark my words. Maybe. I don't think a Royce will win. That would be awesome, though. Carlos said I'm going with the Bold. Kevin Nutzling said Barristan in his prime without Don involved. Way more feats than Arthur. And Martin himself said they were pretty even in training. This is height versus record. Give me something. That's what JDS said. That's hilarious. And then, Everett T said Arthur who? After 4 months, I can't go against Barristan Selmy. Yeah. All right, here you guys go. I'm gonna get out of here. Thank you, everybody. Here, give me 1 second. Thank you, everybody who voted since March 1st, who commented, who shared, all that stuff. please subscribe. I do a Song of Ice and Fire content all year. It's just my tourney. I do notice that there's people who I see in my comments during the tourney seasons, but no other time. I'm doing another one next year. My plan is, and then I think I will. I didn't do it last year, even though I said, but I got a couple smaller tourneys I might just do this year, and I need to just do them. I can never think of a good time to do them, but there's like 2 that I already have like thought of that I want to do. So yeah, smaller ones. See you guys next March for the start of the next one. And yeah, giant thank you. I know that we disagree sometimes. I know I even get a little passionate, and a lot of you guys do, and that's amazing. But I really want you to know that no matter what, I'm very grateful, even if we disagree on things, that you came and joined. And we're keeping this fandom just barely chugging along, right? I mean, I have a very small part in that because I'm a very small Song of Ice and Fire channel. But my friends who have much bigger channels, and us and everyone else, is keeping this fandom going as we're either waiting for another book, if that ever happens, or whatever. So yeah, I'm glad they're still passionate. That's all I wanted to say. All right, peace.